I had posted a Jewish apple cake a couple of weeks ago, and that was actually Sadea's grandmother who made that for me. Everybody was asking, so we got the next best thing. Her granddaughter is going to teach us how to make it tonight, and I'm excited. She taught us how to make it before. I kind of forgot, and we wasn't in this type of setting either, so we're looking forward tonight on how to make the Jewish cake. Hello, good evening. Welcome to our My Wife Can't Cook Jewish apple cake version. Did I say that right? Jewish apple cake. Jewish apple cake. We missed y'all last week. We pray that everybody had a blessed Thanksgiving. I also pray that y'all threw y'all food out by now. I hope nobody is still eating on that Thanksgiving. Right. But when nobody be sick and you won't just throw it away. It's time to move on. Yeah, it's time to let it go. So give us, I'm gonna let you come on this side. I'm gonna move over here. So give us just a little background on how did you start making the Jewish cake? Where did it come from? Because I'm going to be honest, okay? In our culture, like, this is, this is very, we might get like a pineapple turnover cake, but it's very rare that, we get Jewish apple.
So my grandma, when I was younger, of course, she made the cake, and she always made the coconut cake, and I don't like coconut.
Oh.
So she, as an alternative, she would make the Jewish apple cake, and then I was like, oh, well, perhaps I need to learn how to make this cake.
Yes.
So, like always, my grandma would say, this is the pretty cake. That's what she always called it, the pretty cake. So I found a love for making the pretty cake. But the term, the Jewish apple cake, sorry guys, don't have a history lesson. I don't know. I just learned the recipe from grandma. Grandma passed it on down to me, and I'm here to show you all.
Yes. So we thank you for coming on and showing us tonight. And so where are we going to? Oh, also today Sadea is a celebrity too. She is a drummer. I'm telling you, if you ever seen her in rock or in doing her thing, she does it. She carries the spirit of the Lord, and we just appreciate it. So how did you give us a little background on that? How did you become a drummer? Because look, I'm sure like even when she goes to shows, she's been at, I'm telling you, weddings. She's been at events. I'm sure when they look for the drummer, they don't expect you to walk through the door.
Never.
So when they see you coming through, like I know you get that look.
Yeah, I get the look. I get the question, are you the drummer? No, I just carry the bag. That's happened a lot. But I actually started in church. So a lot of people don't know that, but I started in church, and I started at my grandpa's church.
Did you take lessons, or you just kind of came?
Initially, no. Initially, I learned by ear, and then I developed this love for music, and then learning more about it and starting to read. So of course that traveled on to middle school, then to high school, and then I went to Berklee College of Music, alum. So yeah, now I'm here and got to travel the world and everything. So I'm grateful.
Yes, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to hear you play as well. But so let's dig right in.
All right, so you want to have your apples. Nikki, they know you by Nikki or Carlene.
It don't matter.
So Nikki posted the ingredients, and you have about 6 to maybe between 8 apples that you would need to peel and also cut up. So right now you should see some apples cut up, and then you also see lemon. I was a little late with this, but it really doesn't have any bearing on the taste of the cake or anything. But the lemon will keep your apples from browning. So if you're making this, if you want your apples to sit, so that it could get the flavor of the cinnamon and the sugar inside of them, then some people like to just have their apples sit, but they put the lemon on it to keep it from browning.
Okay. We just learned that before the show. I didn't know. She asked for a lemon. I didn't know that, so they keep it from browning, but she sprinkled some on there already.
So some cut up apples. Some people might ask well, how do you cut them up? No particular order or anything. I typically like to, if you have a decor, they'll be great because you can just take the core right out and then cut around. But I mean, we don't, so we make it do what it do.
Yes.
So sometimes I'll cut it in half, and then I'll just start cutting these slices. Now it's not too thick. You definitely don't want too thick of a slice.
Yeah, she's cutting them very thin. And we use, when we peel them, they look like this, but when we peel them, we use the, I mean, you can use whatever you want, but we had
a peeler.
she a little bougie, so we had, we had an actual peeler. We had a peeler, so. But she's slicing them real thin. And I guess, what does that, I guess they have to be thin so that it doesn't like cook all the way through.
So one, they'll definitely cook better when they're in the oven. Some people, they like to cook the apples, but I don't cook the apples, and my grandma doesn't cook the apples because I don't want to create applesauce.
Yeah.
So we just cut them up. Yeah, we can go ahead and start putting them in here. And you want to have a bowl just like we have as you're cutting them up so it doesn't go over the counter, fall on the floor, or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I'm still cutting these apples, and again, it's about 6 to 8 apples, depending on how large they are, or depending on, like, if you like apples, if you want your cake to be appley, then you can add some more apples.
Yeah.
So we're on the last apple.
Yep. So I guess the longest part is cutting the apples up.
That actually is.
This one might go.
Need to be cut more up.
No, just break it apart.
Definitely, I think this is the most time-consuming part before you actually, and the reason why you want to do this first is so that when we put the sugar and the cinnamon, so that the apples can like get that flavor and create the juice.
Okay. All right, cool. And I got some flavor from pure vanilla extract. This is from Home Goods. Now,
Can you call me bougie?
this is, I guess this is the good kind. But this is, I want to put this up. This is Baker's Joy. We will be using this tonight in the recipe. Now, Sadea told me about this because when she was saying Baker's Joy, I'm like seeing in my head, what is she trying to say? Get joy out of bacon? Where's she? But this is actually a cooking spray called Baker's Joy. And it's for baking spray for when you use it, and it has flour in it. It says baking spray with flour, the original no stick. Yeah. So I guess this is something.
I think that's old school too.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say.
I remember the '90s, grandma whipping it out, and like she only bought. I think it comes in blue and red, and she only bought the blue one.
Oh, what's it? So Baker's Joy, you get this. It's called Baker's Joy for bakers.
But if you don't have Baker's Joy,
Pam.
Pam works. Also, butter.
Oh yeah.
Just butter in that pan. But the only thing with that is you gotta like make sure it's nice and melted. I wouldn't like put it in the microwave or anything, but you have to make sure it's melted so that it spreads throughout the pan evenly.
Yeah. Alright. So I'm gonna get those all cut up.
Alright.
Okay, and let's put the rest of them in there.
Got it. So now, guys, what we want to do is add sugar and cinnamon. So this is to actually flavor your apples, and the apples start creating the juice. Now, don't ask me how much sugar we're going to add in these apples, but we're just going to add a little at a time.
Okay.
This is about... This is a cup.
Yes.
So let's just add a little at a time. And the thing to remember is that you want to coat the apples evenly.
Okay.
So now don't give yourself a sugar rush, but you just want to coat all of the apples evenly.
So a whole cup of sugar.
Yep. And then what you want to do is, again, we're trying to coat this evenly. So we want to just spread that around. And then we'll add the cinnamon.
Yeah, and it looks like the sugar is crystallizing onto the apples. Yeah. We'll add cinnamon. Yeah.
You don't want to make it too sweet because you are going to use sugar again inside of the batter.
Okay. So cinnamon,
This will probably be like maybe a teaspoon.
Okay.
A teaspoon and a half possibly.
Okay.
Grandma didn't always measure.
I'm gonna make sure the vanilla is.
So if you see the apples, it doesn't look like that's enough cinnamon. You don't want it. It looks like it look a little stingy with the cinnamon.
You want more cinnamon?
Yeah, we need a little more cinnamon.
That's good.
Yeah, let's start with that. So just start off with a little first, and then just continue to mix. And again, you want to just coat all of those apples. So I would actually add some more. I would add some more cinnamon, and I would add some more sugar.
Okay.
So again, with the apples, we're going to like pretty much season them. And we're just gonna like leave them off to the side. Again, it's gonna create this nice little mixture, nice little juice, so that we can add it to. Yep, you're fine. Okay. We can add it to the batter a little later.
So that was like another half cup of sugar. So that was like 1.5 cups of sugar, and the cinnamon we probably added another teaspoon. So that was 2 teaspoons of cinnamon and about 1.5 cups of sugar. Yep.
So we would just like leave this and just pretty much, we can just leave it to sit.
Okay, so we want to show them what this looks like. And see, it looks like, it's just coming together and it's all evenly distributed in there. Just, So 2 cups, what did I say? 1.5 cups of sugar, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon.
Yeah.
So we're going to sit this to the side while we work on our next portion.
So we're going to move over to the mixer.
All right. Okay, so what we have?
So when we go into the mixer, of course we have our apples. We're going to leave it alone, let that sit, create the juices, and now we're going to mix our liquid ingredients and our dry ingredients.
Okay.
So in the mixer, you want to absolutely, this is where the measuring matters. We want to grab our sugar, and we're going to start off with 2 cups of sugar. So this is 1, right? Yep, this is 1 cup. 1 whole cup. Okay. That's 1. All right, and then 2 cups. Again, what we're doing is creating a batter now for the cake.
Okay.
So now we have our sugar in here, and we want to go ahead and get our cup of oil.
Oil, okay.
A couple people mentioned the difference with the dry ingredients and then also the liquid ingredients, especially when you have measuring cups, because they do measure differently.
Yes.
So we want to make certain to use liquid measuring cups or measuring devices when we are doing
liquid. And I learned that the first time we made the cake.
Okay. All right, so it is mixing this sugar and oil mixture together, but just want to grab the spatula just to make sure it is all mixing together. Sometimes what happens is it gets stuck on the sides, so you just want to make sure everything.
That looks like a snowball.
Don't taste this. Please don't.
Please
don't taste it.
And don't let the kids eat it.
Right, please no.
That's a
this.
sugar rush.
Right. So now we want to get our sifter.
Okay. Now. There you go.
So the sifter should be filled up to the top, guys. What you'll do is you'll have the sifter and then eggs. So the recipe calls for about 5 to 6 eggs, depending on how many apples that you do have. And again, you want to fill the sifter up. And then what you should do is you want to sift, and then 2 eggs, sift, 2 eggs until like all of the eggs and all of the flour is gone.
Okay.
So, this is like this. Little arm workout, but and we're not going to pour all in at the same time, so we want to go ahead and add the sifter, and then add it to mix.
So we did the oil, we did sugar, we let that mix and come together. Then we did the flour. About, I think she did like 4 or 5 presses with it.
And it's like just a pattern. So you do flour, eggs, flour, eggs, flour, eggs. Again, if it starts to like get stuck on the side, then you can just get a spatula so that you're able to just kind of mix it or help the mixer mix.
Okay.
So then, let's do this.
So then you say add 2 eggs, right?
Yep. This one.
Mm-hmm. And we got 5 eggs, and we use 7 apples, so we're using 5 eggs.
Yep. So once you start adding the eggs, what it's going to do, along with the flour, it's going to like create a like a yellowish batter.
I see. Yeah, it's turning like a yellow color from the eggs.
It's almost going to look like custard, almost, until you continue to add the flour and also the eggs.
Okay.
And there's no rush.
Now, why do we use the sifter instead of just pouring it in?
Because so that the flour isn't like all clumpy.
Okay.
Some people have older sifters. My grandma had one where you like
Yeah.
So we'll want the flour to get to be clumpy when you add it in.
Okay.
And it's like this looks like it's snowing on the batter.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Sometimes, depending on the sifter that you have, sometimes it'll like get stuck here, so you can just like give it a little push and it'll start. There you go.
Yeah.
Pouring out. So then we want to let that mix in.
Okay.
Down.
All right. So now we got to put eggs.
Yep. So we're just going to add our eggs.
Now we're gonna put 2 in, or we're gonna put the remainder of them in there.
We're going to just put 1 in.
Okay.
And let this go ahead and mix a little. I actually like this. This is different. So this is good. Alright, so we are going to go ahead and notice how the flour is almost gone.
Yeah.
Then this bad boy mix. And because I added more flour, I'm just going to let it run for a little.
Okay. And I guess you can gauge it to where, I mean,
It's not supposed to be like runny.
Right.
It's supposed to be like thick. If it looks like a custard, then it's too loose. It's like, it's like cake mix. It's cake mix.
Yeah, like a dough. Like
not quite like a dough because we don't want it to be too thick.
Okay.
Yep. But just it's cake mix.
Okay. Got you. Oh, I got you. So just like if you was gonna make a cake in a box.
Exactly.
Okay. Got you. We just making it from scratch.
Right. Or like pancake mix.
Okay.
Yep, it's pretty good.
And then we got what, 2 more eggs to put in?
Yep, 2 more eggs left. Alright, so guys, we're gonna add our remaining eggs.
Okay.
Oh, I almost got a shell in
And
there.
be careful. She got this because I would have had eggshells.
And I'm trying to be careful because I got like cake batter.
I would have had eggshells and everything up in there. And there was our last 2 eggs.
Yep, so yeah.
Here, you want this?
Yeah, I'll take it. Yep.
And the oven is preheated to what? Oven preheated?
Oven should be preheated. I didn't mention that in the beginning because we turned ours on.
Yes.
But you want to absolutely go ahead and preheat your oven to 350 degrees. We need baking powder.
Okay.
Baking
that's
powder.
what makes it.
Baking powder.
How much baking powder we need?
For the baking powder, we're going to use 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder.
Okay, here we go. 2.5.
So let's continue to sift our flour. You should be at like near the end of your flour. And then what we'll go ahead and do is add the baking powder.
Okay, 2.5 teaspoons, right?
Yep, not baking soda, guys, baking powder.
Baking powder.
Yeah, that smaller one is the half, so you want
Yeah, 1, 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay. 2, and then a half.
the half, yes. Alright, then I'm just gonna add some more. Alright, so guys, just gonna keep the speed up a little. And then what I'm also going to do now is add some of our vanilla. Again, grandma ain't measure nothing, but
so we're gonna guesstimate.
we gonna guesstimate. If I had and you don't want a lot because like I heard people you can act like they drunk off the vanilla extract. I don't know. Like, I don't know if I probably just made that up, but
so that was about.
it's not a lot. Like just a couple of drops of the vanilla extract. And its vanilla extract is so, if it's not imitation, it's so strong.
Yes, it is.
So like we only put a little and you could smell it.
Exactly. Yeah, so about 3 good drops. I would say maybe just 3 drops.
So I'm going to stop this. And notice how it's like, looks like, it always just reminds me of pancake batter, the way that it drips.
Yes.
And what it will do is adding this flour and then adding the orange juice is going to kind of even it out so it keeps the texture.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So it doesn't become too thick like
okay, because I was wondering like, wait a minute.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So this is like almost at the end, but we want to make sure we use everything.
Yeah.
And notice how like there's little clumps in here.
Oh yeah. So that's why we do that so that don't go in like that.
So we don't get any clumps. Clumps become harder to actually mix in.
Yeah.
Alright, I think just a little more. I'll clean up your floor.
That's alright.
Alright.
So Kanisha did us a favor and Googled.
Yes, there it is.
She Googled what's a baking soda. Baking soda requires an acid and a liquid to become activated and help bake goods rise. Baking powder only makes a liquid to become activated.
So this must be the liquid that we're using to activate it.
Okay. And there's acid in there too.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you,
Kanisha. All right. That gave it a different smell. The orange juice. You think we need more flour?
Flour, yep.
Yeah.
And we have some in there.
Okay. Because it's
See how it got like a little liquidy?
yeah.
Not what we want.
Yes. So we're gonna add more flour because it's just a little too thin. See, it shouldn't be running. Like,
Yep,
it should be dripping and not running.
Just enough so that it'll thicken right on up.
Yeah, look how it's coming out of it. I'm telling you, these gadgets they come up with.
Listen, these gadgets, man, they do come in handy.
Yes. And you can tell today as a baker, she know how to work it. She know how to work it.
Alright, so that is all of your ingredients. Like the flour and the orange juice, that like should be the very last thing that you add in. And let's check on our apples. Let's see what the apples are doing.
Okay.
If it created the juices that it was supposed to create.
Oh, yes, it did. Wow, y'all remember when we get a picture? Y'all remember? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So, oh yeah, nice. All right, so guys, what it did was we just left those apples and the sugar and the cinnamon is created the juices, and we're going to use all this. We're not going to be stingy and only use some. We're going to use all of this because it's going to go right inside of the batter. So look at all of that juice. Now you might be able to taste that. Just don't taste that. I don't recommend it.
Yes, and look, it was dry. When we first started, this was dry. And I guess the reason why you let it sit so that it can begin to, I guess,
It's
caramelize, whatever, however you say it. But this created a lot of juice.
Yeah, it did.
Wow.
Alright,
So now we're gonna come back over here to see how our cake is coming along.
yeah. And I'm just making sure nothing gets stuck up on the sides because sometimes that can happen.
And see how it's thickening?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
thickening. There we go. And again, like she said, we want to make sure this is filled up. Because you see we used all of ours. We have no more flour in here. There's a couple clumps in there, but no actual flour in here.
And then what I'll do too, even though it looks like it's mixed up pretty well, but I'll stop the mixer so that we can always also get the bottom of it, just to make sure like no eggs or anything are stuck at the bottom that didn't get mixed in. So yeah, that has a really nice consistency. So what we'll do is when we're going to spray our pan.
Okay.
And we'll get this pan.
Again, we have Baker's Joy here. Some can use pan, but we're using Baker's Joy.
Yep, so we just spray. And it's very generous, especially if you have a new kid. It's very generous. And what I'm doing is I'm just spraying the entire pan. Afterwards, and be careful because it's afterwards, what I'll come back or go behind after I do this is like just get a paper towel and then just spread it all around, and then make sure if you are using this tube pan that you go ahead and
spray the middle part.
Yeah. So the cake doesn't get stuck.
Okay. And I think and I noticed that the Baker's Joy is thicker than pan because it has flour in it.
Yep.
Oh, okay. It has extra
Like that's
flour.
what I was about to say. They like they'll use the butter, then they'll like sprinkle some flour, then like
just
tap
shake
it around.
it. Yeah.
So
you need a paper towel?
Yeah, we'll get a paper towel, and then just make sure the whole pan is evenly coated. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not wiping it off. Again, I'm just making sure that the whole pan just has, spread a little love, spread a little Baker's Joy in the whole pan.
Let the joys be spread all over.
And again, it's because we don't want it to get stuck while it's coming out.
All right, so now we got that.
And we want to get our cake batter now. This is the fun part. This is where the pretty cake, I guess, name comes into play. I guess. So
you need me
we'll
to
go ahead and no, I think you can leave it there. And what we'll do is, we'll what we'll do is we will add cake batter, then apples, then cake batter, then apples. But you don't want to put too many apples throughout the cake batter because we're going to top the top off with some more apples, so it kind of like pops out.
Okay, so we have cake batter first. Let me get that so you can kind of. So we have some cake batter.
Angle.
And you want to evenly distribute it, looks like, around. Okay. All right.
Then we want to get some apples. And look at that nice juice it creates. And we'll just pretty much start adding the apples around.
And it already looks pretty.
The batter. Again, you don't want to be too stingy with it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually grab a spoon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just pretty much do that. And it's absolutely okay if some of the juice gets inside of it. That's a good thing. That's what we want.
Okay.
Okay. Just want to make sure the apples get every area. Then you come back behind and then pour in the cake batter. And it just sits on top of those apples.
It looks so good.
Again, it's enough. We just want to coat because, again, remember we need some for the top of the cake.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll come back and then just make sure. Being very generous with the apples.
Yes.
Again, if you like a very apple-y cake, great. But you don't want to use all of your apples because remember, they are going to go on top of your cake batter.
At the end.
Yeah, at the end, right. So once the batter is going, then we'll go back in and put the rest of the apples.
Okay. Okay.
And so like now we're coming to the end of the batter. So what I'll do is I'll take the spoon and kind of just guide it on out.
And now see how, you know, it can, because I always wonder how every piece had apples in it.
Right.
Now, you can see. And this is good. Warm you up some coffee in the morning.
Listen, I actually think this is a very great breakfast cake.
Yes.
So
This is a very good cake. Breakfast, lunch.
breakfast, lunch, right? Snack.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So I'm just taking the last bit of the batter.
Alrighty.
So we're almost done.
Yes.
I don't have a lot of apples left, so, but it's good because we'll just make sure that all of the apples get inside of this batter. I mean, I do have a lot of apples left.
Yeah, you got a nice amount. You got a nice amount, even you distribute it. Because I guess when it's done cooking, you do want to be able to see
it right
on
exactly.
top as it bakes in. Gotcha.
And then again, if the juice gets in there, you want that. It's just going to seep throughout. Alright, so we are almost done with the apples. And that is it.
All right. So here we go. We have our Jewish apple cake. Before it goes into the oven. And I mean, fairly easy recipe. I think the hardest part was cutting the apples
Yep.
and, you know, the flour and egg, you know, it's a little time, but I mean, it's not bad at all. It's just the pattern is consistent, so it's good.
Right.
But and so how long do we have to let this bake for?
We're going to add, again, 350 degrees. By this time, the oven should be preheated, so it should just be ready to go in. But you want to let it bake. Everybody's oven isn't the same. So I would start off with like an hour. Make sure you eye it. If you have racks inside of your oven, make sure it's not up too high because the cake is going to rise and those apples, you don't want them to burn.
Yeah.
But you want to start, I would start off with like an hour, check it, but it can bake up to an hour and a half.
Okay. So depending on your oven, like you said, up to an hour and a half, but eye it, check it. If you have a
Toothpick.
toothpick or lights on your oven, put it on just so you can just keep an eye on it.
if it's like been an hour and 15 minutes and you just simply want to check the cake, just to make sure it's done, just get a toothpick, and if it comes off clean, then you know it's done.
Okay.
So that's the test.
Okay. All right. So that is our Jewish apple cake. I do want to thank Sadea for coming on today and sharing her recipe with us. I'm as she was doing it, I'm putting it back in my head, trying to eye it and everything. But hopefully I can bake it on my own. And once again, high five to Sadea. COVID, I forgot.
Yeah.
COVID bump.